Naughty Dog, a game developer brave enough to go to places other developers won't. Places such as the jungles of Crash Bandicoot. Also can't forget the temples of Tomb Raider, Uncharted. Now, the brave explorers at Naughty Dog bring us to the infected southern United States in The Walking Dead, The Last of Us. All jokes aside, can Naughty Dog take the crown for another Game of the Year contender, or should they continue on the prowl for new ideas? The story of The Last of Us takes place across the southern United States, as mentioned above, after an infection spread across the country, an infection that turns people into zombie-like monsters. It places players in the role of Joel, a rugged and world-weary smuggler tasked with smuggling a 14-year-old girl out of their current city into a meeting place for the Fireflies, a group of freedom fighters. Why is this post-apocalyptic Han Solo tasked with smuggling a little girl? Because she is immune to the virus ravaging the land. The story is similar to The Walking Dead in that it focuses on the human aspect of an event such as this. Its two stars go through some harrowing experiences, but the character development is pretty thin. The character's development just happens overnight, and it isn't very believable. Despite this, there are some pretty hard-hitting scenes, and they don't get much better than this. Of course, this is technically a survival horror game, and there are some better survival horror stories out there. The gameplay is a mix between action and stealth. The game urges stealth throughout the game, and some parts are practically impossible without it. The reason stealth is so important is the fact that you're usually very low on supplies. The gunplay is noticeably worse than Naughty Dog's own Uncharted series, and the melee system is just as simple. On the surface, the game plays great, but when you get down to it, it's lackluster. You are either fighting or walking. The walking sections add more story often, but also make you do simple traversal puzzles, and they are repeated so often, and they really wear on your patience. The combat is simple, as mentioned, but it's still a thrill. The limited ammo and other supplies really add to the tension and overall feel of combat. It plays like a scene from a movie. You kill a few and then run out of ammo, forcing you to tackle the rest. There are two types of enemies as well. The human bandits and the infected. The infected are the most brainless, as it should be, and are the most frustrating and unfun parts of the game. They are the stealth important segments, where stealth is paramount. There are usually multiple runners, enemies that rush up and attack, and multiple clickers, tough enemies that cannot be killed without a weapon and kill in one touch. The infected fights are so frustrating because of the clickers alone. They cannot see you though, only hear you, and they kill you in one hit. You can also craft items with supplies you find. Items such as medkits, Molotov cocktails, and smoke bombs that all help in combat. Some are better than others, but all can be useful. When these are at their most useful, however, is in combat against the humans, which are the much more dynamic fights. You move from cover to cover, fighting the smarter enemies, and smoke bombs can help you disappear to sneak up on the stun enemies, allowing for more complex battles. The human encounters are definitely the highlight of the gameplay, but it's still rather simple and not the best. There are better playing games out there, especially games in the genre. Of course, you'll be playing for the story. The music is beautifully somber and sad, quiet and tense, and it all suits the world The Last of Us brings us to perfectly. The voice work is great as well, though Joel's performance can be inconsistent at first. It adds believability to the game's world, though the enemies do not sound nearly as good. The sound effects sound great as well, and overall the sound is great. visuals are outstanding, highlighted by the beautiful greens of nature taking the world back. The animations are amazing and make the simple combat stunning to watch, especially the melee combat. If you are near a wall or other object when you punch someone, Joel will push them against the object and eventually use it against them. It builds a more realized world and just furthers why this game looks fantastic. There are very few slowdowns and, like the Uncharted series, there are no loading screens outside the lengthy one before the menu. The character models look amazing, though Ellie's hair looks awkward sometimes, and the HUD is simple but effective. It stays out of the way and leaves the action clutter-free. Everything comes together to craft the best looking PlayStation 3 exclusive and, more importantly, the best looking console exclusive ever created. The only bad thing is that you spend too much time in dark areas that don't do the visuals justice. Overall, The Last of Us looks fantastic, sounds fantastic, and has a great story. The gameplay, on the other hand, is rather simple and half of it is unfun. Still, I found myself playing it for hours at a time just to see what would happen next, and with a first run of around 15 hours, it was a lengthy and mostly enjoyable ride. It's not the best game to be released this year, but it deserves a spot on your shelf, and hopefully this isn't the last of them. Joel and Ellie fight their way to an 8 out of 10.